Three, two, one. All right, I'm recording. So unit 5 is called the Gilded Age, right here, Gilded. Make a new page, start all fresh and new. It's called the Gilded Age. All right. When something is gilded, what does it mean? Do you guys know what that means? Shivani, do you know what gilded means?
Um, I have an idea, but I don't know if it's like right. I just know like. Actually, no, I don't. I don't want to say. I think it's wrong.
Okay. So gilded means that it's covered in gold, like a gold paint, right? Oftentimes, what they would do in Europe, an art thing that they would do is you would have like gold powder and you would put it into a paint and then you would paint it on so it looks like, you know, the thing is gold, right? But if I have a gilded chair, is it actually gold? It's not, right? It's not an actually gold chair. Um, it's a gilded chair, right? This is why the Gilded Age, Mark Twain comes up with the term Gilded Age to mean that this is an age where on the surface it looks like gold, but if you scratch the surface, you reveal that it's not. Okay. This is the time period of American history. We're going to put this as A. We're going to define the Gilded Age. Gilded Age is the time period of American history from about 1870 to about 1900. 1870 to 1900. And it's the time where it looks like gold, but if you scratch the surface, it's not. Okay. The reason why this looks like gold is this is the time period. So you say Gilded Age is known for, and then we're going to make a list, right? Like a 1 through 5. Okay. So it's known for number 1, the rise of big business. This is the rise of really big American businesses, starting with the railroads, but it's going to also be like steel and oil. This is going to be Carnegie and Rockefeller. This is the rise of big business. Okay. Number 2, the rise of labor unions. It's the rise of labor unions because the poor people are going to come in response to the rich people. Okay. Number 3, the taming of the West. The taming of the West. So at this point in time, Manifest Destiny is done, right? The United States controls everything from sea to shining sea, but the West is still the Wild West. And so the taming of the West means killing all the natives and getting white people out there and turning the land into like farmland and mines and stuff. Okay. And last but not least, intense government corruption. This is maximum corruption. This is the United States at maximum corruption. Okay, we're going to get presidents all through this whole time period and like state governments and city governments that are just deeply, deeply corrupt. The spoil system is at its nastiest during this time period. And the US government is just going to lose millions and millions of dollars to corruption. Okay. This is why Mark Twain cites it as the Gilded Age, right? On the surface, it looks great. The American economy is booming, railroads are booming, you know, steel is booming, oil is booming, right? But you scratch the surface and you find all the corruption, you find all this, like workers are upset, you find, you know, the Indians are being killed, right? You find all this stuff going on. Okay. I'm going to focus today on the taming the West part. We're going to do the Native American stuff first, because in a lot of ways, the Native American stuff, it's happening at the same time, but it's not like connected as closely to the other ones, right? And so it kind of functions as its own like little timeline. So we're going to get the Native American stuff, and then what we'll do is we'll double back in time and do all the business stuff moving up, okay? So let's do Native American stuff. Our Native American stuff is going to start back here, 1866. B, big number B, 1866, Red Cloud's War. So Red Cloud is the gentleman right here in the picture. This is Red Cloud. He is a member of the Sioux tribe. Sioux. Okay, Sioux. I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys. Sioux. Okay, that's how they spell the tribal name. Okay, the French were the first white people to encounter the tribe, and so when the tribe introduced themselves as the Sioux, that's how the French spelled it. So thanks a lot, France. Okay, so the Sioux tribe is the largest tribe in the American West. It's the largest tribe in the West, and they control basically the Dakotas, Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming. That whole area through there. That whole area is like their area. So North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska. That whole middle flat part. The Sioux have a long history of being nomadic, where they travel with the bisons, they travel with the buffaloes, travel back and forth. And as they travel back and forth with the bisons, they hunt and kill the bison stuff. Now, Red Cloud is coming to Red Cloud in 1866. He comes to Washington, D.C. He's the leader of the tribe, and he comes to Washington, D.C. to say that the United States had signed a treaty with his people, giving him the land of the Dakotas, and now the United States was violating that treaty because the US Army was coming into his land and it was taking land and it was fighting his people. And so he wants the US government to honor the treaty and back off, right? This is an important thing to do here, right? So we need to define some things about Red Cloud because it's going to change and you need to be able to articulate how it changed, okay? So at this point in time, prior to Red Cloud, from Red Cloud going back, the US government had always signed treaties with individual tribes. So each tribe was treated like a nation. And so you would sign a treaty with this tribe giving them this piece of land, and with this tribe giving them this piece of land, and this tribe giving them this piece of land. That each tribe was treated as its own nation, and so they were negotiated individually. Red Cloud represents the Sioux, and the Sioux had negotiated individually in the past. Okay. The U.S. Congress, what do you guys think the U.S. Congress is going to say? Anika, what do you think the U.S. Congress is going to say to Red Cloud?
No.
Yeah, yeah. The U.S. government basically doesn't. They basically laugh him out of the chambers, essentially, right? And they say, yeah, we don't care about your treaty. We're just going to, right, as you would expect. This prompts into a war. It turns into a war where the U.S. Army basically attacks the Sioux, and Red Cloud warns them. He says, if you attack me, then this is going to be a war. And the U.S. Army's like, yeah, that's okay. This leads us into the Fetterman Massacre. It's in 1866. The Fetterman Massacre is what the white newspapers called it. The natives call it the Battle of 100 Slain. So Fetterman, seen here in this painting. So Fetterman is a U.S. Army general. U.S. Army, he fought in the Civil War, and now he goes to fight the natives, okay? He brings his natives up into the Sioux and fights the Sioux, and he loses bad, okay? He brings with him 100 men. Yeah, we can make a C, that's fine. He brings with him 100 men, and the Sioux kill him, okay? The Sioux name it the Battle of 100 Slain. White newspapers call it Fetterman Massacre. All right, so Alicia, why does it matter that there are these two names? What do these two names mean to us?
One side is like the Native Americans' perspective, and the other is the government's.
Right. Why does it matter that we're calling it the Fetterman Massacre? Why does that word matter?
Because all the people were killed, and so it was from the natives.
Right, right. It is true, but there's something else. This word, massacre, that's a heavy word, right? And Nico, what do the names matter for us?
Um, even though he lost, the Battle of 100 Slain kind of in my like mind, it just shows more empathy, I guess. Like they were slain versus massacre is really like dramatic and well, obviously it was a huge thing, but it's like what you were saying, it's a heavier word. So
Yeah. Can massacre ever be a good thing? Is massacre ever a good word?
no, and it implies that they were all killed in cold blood and it was like horrible.
Yeah, it sounds like they can't defend themselves, right? Like if you guys all tell stories in 10 years about the massacre of Mr. Veenstra's AP US class, right? Where in the springtime, Mr. Veenstra just failed everybody just because I could, right? And I just destroyed all your grades and you guys are all crying and weeping and you couldn't even stop anything, right? It was just the massacre of the 11th grade, right? You guys aren't going to be thinking that you're equal to me, right? You're going to think that I'm more powerful and that I'm abusing my power against you, right? And I have destroyed you, right? Massacre is not a neutral word. Massacre is a bad word, right? Massacre is a heavy moralistic word. And it's saying that Fetterman was massacred. Here's the thing. Fetterman brings in 100 soldiers. It's not like Fetterman was like an innocent guy being killed, right? He's not like some dude who was massacred in his sleep or something like that, right? Okay. What matters here is that this gets shown in all the newspapers across the country, and this becomes a really big deal because, excuse me, because the American people want the Indian problem to be taken care of. They want the natives, the West to be tamed. They want the natives to be taken out. And this is the start of the Indian Wars. It's the start of the Indian Wars. And you need to put Indian Wars in caps, right? Indian Wars. And let's define the Indian Wars as a term. So the Indian Wars is a war. It's a war that lasts from 1866 all the way to about 1900, roughly the same time period as the Gilded Age. So 1866 to 1900, and it's the war against all of the Western tribes. So the U.S. Army is fighting all of the Western tribes, basically. Okay. Shivani, are you with us? You look like your internet connection's not so great today.
Yeah, sorry, my parents are just being loud, so I muted myself.
No.
I can hear fine though.
Okay. As long as you can hear, then we're good. Your video keeps freezing up and buffering. So I was just hoping you're not losing us.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Then we're good. All right. The army is going to invade, and they're going to fight for a while. We're going to get to jumping ahead in time a little bit. 1871. Let's make this a new number. Big number D. Big number D. We're going to pass something called the Indian Appropriations Act. This is a super important act for Native Americans. The Indian Appropriations Act of 1871. So this is still under President Grant. President Grant negotiates peace with the Sioux, right? He gets peace with the Sioux, but he passes this Appropriations Act. And what this does is this changes the nature of Indian American relationships for the rest of the time, for forever. This still applies today. So it changes the nature of Indian and American relationships. From this point forward, the US government does not negotiate with individual tribes. The US government treats all of the tribes as one group, and that none of the previous treaties are recognized anymore. All the previous treaties were thrown out. Now, this is because all the tribes are treated as one group, and all the previous treaties are thrown away. Okay, Grant basically says, we won't recognize the Sioux Treaty because when you signed the treaty, when the Sioux in the United States signed the treaty, the Sioux were living on land that the United States didn't control. But it's our net land now, baby. We control it, right? The native tribes are no longer treated as foreign nations, and they're now treated as insurgents within the United States, as enemies inside of the United States. Okay, they're treated the same way that like a militia rising up in the United States would be treated, right? Something like the Whiskey Rebellion or something like that, right? That a rebellion inside the United States. They're treated as a domestic threat. It's important here that President Grant, that you understand, President Grant does not view the Native Americans as American. He views them as enemies within our borders. He's an army guy, right? So he thinks of everything in the term of enemy ally, right? And the Native Americans are the enemy. So from this point forward, the US Army is dealing with tribes directly. And so the tribes are having to deal with Army policy. So the US Army is dealing with them directly. The tribes cannot negotiate by themselves. Previous treaties are not recognized anymore. And here's your last thing. The policy is for the natives to be assimilated. It's for the natives to be assimilated. Eric, do you know what it means to be assimilated?
Isn't it like come all into
Say it again.
to put them all into one group of people?
No, not quite. If we have a group of people who have assimilated, what have they done? Right? If I have a girl named, let's say, Anika Balakrishnan, and she's from India, and she speaks Tamil. Wait, is it Tamil? What's your family speak? Tamil? Yeah. All right. So we have this girl named Anika Balakrishnan. She's a Hindu. She's from India. She speaks Tamil, right? What would happen to this hypothetical girl if she were to become assimilated to American culture? What language would she speak? Hypothetically, if we were to have a girl like that, what would she would speak English, right? If she's fully assimilated, she would not be a Hindu anymore. She'd become a Christian. She would embrace American culture, American music, American clothing, American food, American language, American religion, right? All of those things. Assimilation means that you are destroying the original culture. Okay, so this is important that you put it in here. Assimilation is where you destroy the original culture and force them to become American. So individual immigrants assimilate all the time, right? My parents are immigrants from the Netherlands, and they assimilated to the United States. They learned English, they wear American clothes, they listen to American music and eat American food, right? Like my parents are indistinguishable from any other American, right? Other groups can be assimilated too. This happens a lot with groups of immigrants, but in this case, we're talking about groups of Native Americans. I'm aware they're not immigrants, right? I'm aware that they are here, right? They didn't cross the border crossed them, right? I get that. But they're still going to be treated the same way. Okay. On the AP exam, AP loves asking this question, right? How did American military policies towards Native Americans change after the 1870s, right? That is one of the most common questions on the test. It's on almost every year, right? It's on the test almost every year. It's a very, very common question. How did policies towards Native Americans change after the 1870s? Your answer is assimilation, and the tribes can no longer negotiate individual treaties, right? And the tribes are considered a domestic threat. right? They're considered enemies, domestic threats. But assimilation is that really big one. You really want assimilation. Cool? Are we understanding that? Okay. Now, if we're going to assimilate the Sioux, what do we need to do to them? What do you need to do, Anika? If we're going to assimilate the Sioux, what do we have to do?
We first have to force them to convert to Christianity.
Okay. Force them to convert. That violates freedom of religion, so maybe that isn't number one, but you're right.
I can't really hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now I can.
Okay. Yeah. Force them to convert to Christianity. That might violate freedom of religion, so you might get some pushback on that in the United States. But okay, so convert them, forcibly convert them. What else? Alicia, what else? I can't hear you, Alicia. All right, try again. Eric, what else do we have to do? We're converting them. What else?
Not really sure.
Oh, come on now. Shivani, what else do we got to do?
Language and clothes, maybe.
Okay, so they need to start dressing American. They need to start listening to American music and culture, right? What else, Alicia? Are you with me now? Can you speak yet? I still can't hear you. All right, you can type
Maybe
your
you
answer.
could type it in the chat.
Yeah, you can type it in the chat. You're having some audio issues. All right, what else? Any of you guys? Shiva, Eric, Annika, whatever.
They have to stop like living where they do live in their
Yeah, can we let them live in these teepees like this? No, Americans don't live in teepees. Where do Americans live?
in houses.
In houses, of course. Make them live in houses, right? Do Americans travel back and forth with the buffalo? No. What do Americans do? We
Live in
farm. We farm. One of the assimilation is the natives have to become farmers. Put this in here. You could put in assimilation goals, right? Assimilation goals is that the natives have to speak English, they have to become Christian, they have to start to farm, they have to eat, dress, worship like white people. As close to white people as you can get them. Part of this policy is the extinction of the buffalo. The US Army is going to try to, are going to declare war on bisons, on the bisons. And the US Army basically is going to put a bounty on the head of every bison in the country. And they're going to just kill them all. Okay, it's going to become a massive, massive culling. These are all skulls, bison skulls stacked up here. This is a wall of bison skulls. Okay, and the natives are just going to, or I'm sorry, the US Army is going to just kill the bisons. We're going to get all these brand new trains that have come out to the West. The trains are going to start having these like tour groups where the train will come up and then it'll stop near a giant bison herd. And then all of the tourists will get out and they'll get their guns out and they'll shoot the bisons from the train. Boom, 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 kill them all, right? And then leave them. And then the army will go and collect all their heads in order to, you know, get the payments on them later. Right? And you just leave the big rotting corpses all across the West. Okay. Before this policy in 1860, there was 40 million bison. In 1860, there was 40 million bison. Today, there are 14,000. I'm sorry, 60 million. I'm sorry, 60 million bison, 14,000 bison. So it brings the population from 60 million, 60 million, down to 14,000. Okay, and that's 14,000 today. Okay, it's actually worse in 1900 because that's after 100 years of the bison recovering. Okay, they've recovered their numbers up to 14,000. Okay, it's actually worse than that. There's a really famous example of this that in 1900, the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., They control the National Zoo, right? And they were trying to preserve all of the animals of North America. And they were trying to get a population of bison in order to create a little herd, right? It took them 14 years to get 8 bison. They were trying to get as many mating pairs as they could, and it took them that long to find bison because they couldn't find them anywhere. Okay, the largest bison herd in the whole world is here in Utah. It's on Antelope Island. Because the herd was living on the island, they were actually isolated, and so the Army never killed them. And the island was private property of Brigham Young, and so Brigham Young didn't allow hunting on his private island, and so the Army never went onto the island. And so the Antelope Island is the largest herd of bison in the world, and it has 300. Yeah. Okay. What's the long-term effect of this, other than killing the bison? What's the long-term effect, Eric? What is this long-term effect?
The Sioux life hunted bison doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, the Sioux are no longer able to travel with the herds because there are no herds to travel with, right? And so you're destroying the Sioux lifestyle. And I'm saying Sioux, but there's lots of these tribes in the middle, right? The Sioux is just the largest tribe. So you're destroying their lifestyle because they can no longer travel with bisons. And you're actually going to cause famine across the tribes. The Army is going to cause famine. I think this is it on this one. Let me get your next one. Oh yes, I forgot. By 18, next number, this is big number D, I think, right?
E.
What, E, Echo? Okay. So by 1874, they find gold in South Dakota. Gold in the Black Hills of South Dakota. The gold is found at what's called Homestake Mine. Homestake Mine in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Have any of you guys been to the Black Hills?
I want to go.
Yeah, it's super, super pretty. It's really pretty. It's where Mount Rushmore is. If you guys know where Mount Rushmore, right? The mountain with the president's faces carved in. Yeah, so it's the Black Hills is South Dakota. Whoops. They discovered gold here. And this is great news for the Sioux, right? Because now they can mine for the gold and they can get rich, right? Anika, you're shaking your head. What do you mean?
I read it. Well, I heard about this stuff. Like obviously other people are going to come in and there's going to be some legal stuff to take them off their land so that Americans can mine the gold and then.
Yeah, this is devastating to the Sioux. This is absolutely devastating because white miners move in. White miners move in to dig it up. They create the town of Deadwood, South Dakota, right here. They create the town of Deadwood, South Dakota. They mine the whole area. This is the largest gold mine since California, since the California Gold Rush. And where all the white miners come, who's going to follow with them? The Army. And when the Army comes in, it's going to spell the end for the natives. All right. By 1877, this is the last thing we're going to do today. By 1877, we're going to have the largest battle of the Indian Wars. Okay, it's called the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Battle of Little Bighorn. This is a battle between the Lakota Sioux and the U.S. Army. Okay. On the Lakota Sioux side, we have two people. We have the man in the picture here. His name is Sitting Bull. And then his right-hand man is called Crazy Horse. So Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. We do not have a picture of Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse refused to have his picture taken and said he had religious reasons why he didn't want his picture taken. So even though there are some pictures that exist that they say are Crazy Horse, I'm not going to use them because I'm going to respect that he didn't want his picture taken. So, but here's Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull didn't really care about it. He got his picture taken quite often. But Crazy Horse was really opposed. So Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. Okay. Sitting Bull is more like the political leader of the Sioux at this point. Red Cloud's dead. So Sitting Bull is more like the political leader. Crazy Horse is more like the military general. Okay. On the American side, we have George Armstrong Custer. George Armstrong Custer. Custer. Okay. George Armstrong Custer. Now, George Custer was a U.S. Civil War general. He fought for the United States in the Civil War, and he is a very, very highly decorated, famous general. He fought against Robert E. Lee. He fought all across Virginia. He fought in North Carolina. He is a very highly decorated general. Excuse me, a highly decorated general. He's close friends with Grant, right? He's Grant, he knows Grant. And more important to our story, and I know, Eric, you've already noticed here, but he is a sexy, sexy man, right? He's a sexy, sexy man, right? Am I wrong, Eric?
No.
No, I'm not wrong, right? Look at this, right? Anika, it's the only thing you can think of. Look at this mustache, right? Look at this. Look at this party in the back, business in the front, right? You just know, you know that George Armstrong Custer could get some, right? He's like the sexiest man in the country. I, I'm a little bit nervous keeping his picture up this long because I think you guys are going to get too distracted by his sexiness. But it's important, okay? The reason why it's important that he be sexy and good looking is because he became a real celebrity after the war. After the Civil War, he became a huge celebrity. He would like get his pictures taken all the time. Women all across the country were swooning for him, right? They were all swooning for him, and men across the country all wanted to be just like him. People would dress like him and people would emulate him, and he became a celebrity, right? Because he's a war hero and he's a damn sexy beast, right? Like, you know. So he comes out here. Little Bighorn is the name of a river in Montana, the Little Bighorn River. And so he fights in Montana. This is in Montana. It's in the southeast corner of Montana. It's near the border of South Dakota, near the border of South Dakota and Wyoming. It's in that area there. And Custer fights the Sioux. Now, Crazy Horse was famously a really, really good general. He's a really, really good fighter, right? So Crazy Horse, what he does is he takes some horses, horse soldiers, right? Like a cavalry soldiers. He drops all the stuff off the horse. So the horse is really, really light. It can run fast. He attacks Custer with a small little strike force of men, like 8 or 9 men, a really small group, right? And they shoot into the crowd, and Custer and all his men get up on their horses and they start riding, and Crazy Horse is going fast. Crazy Horse runs past these big fields of deep, deep grass. And then he gets to this ridge. Custer's not a stupid. He's not an idiot. He knows that the ridge is an ambush. He knows that there's going to be soldiers hiding behind that ridge, right? He's not an idiot. So he slows down. He slows down to prepare himself, at which point Crazy Horse comes with the ambush party around the ridge to attack Custer, and they start fighting. Here's the deal. Crazy Horse divided his group not into 2, but into 3. One group was with him, the really fast group. One group was hiding by the ridge, the ambush group, but they were the decoy. The real ambush was laying in the tall grass. And they were laying down in the tall grass, and so they popped up after the whites passed them up. They got on their horses, and as soon as they heard the fight, they attacked from behind. Okay? The Battle of Little Bighorn is the official name of this battle, but the other more famous name is Custer's Last Stand. Custer's Last Stand. Custer gets killed, and all of his men get killed. He's got like 200 men, and they all get killed. Custer's Last Stand. Now this matters because Custer is a famous, famous war hero. He's a celebrity, right? He's friends with the president. He's friends with everybody. Women want to be with him and men want to be him, right? He's a damn sexy beast, right? Like Custer, it really hurts to lose Custer, right? I'm sorry to break your heart, Anika, but we're gonna have to, you know. And so now the women of the country all start crying, right? The Mississippi River swells with their tears as they no longer have Custer around, right? And the bad part about it is that Mr. Veenstra is not going to be born for another 100 years. So the American women are just going to have to find someone else until then, right? You know, and I'm sorry, it's just sometimes American history is sad, right? I got another 100 years before I'm born. So anyway, the result here is that Custer dying is such a big deal in the news and stuff. It's such a big deal that the Army quadruples its strength. They reinvade the area with 4 times as many soldiers. Okay. And the Army is going to spend the next while really, really tearing down native groups. This is a good place for us to stop now. This is a good place for us to stop. Do any of you guys have questions about this so far? Okay. If you want more pictures of Custer, you're going to have to just Google them yourself. But you know, I don't want to get in trouble, right? You guys can Google that yourself. The last day for any late work at all is Monday the 11th. Okay, it's a week from today. That's the last day for any late work. That's retaking quizzes, retaking tests, turning in late assignments, turning in your notes, turning in anything. Okay, last day for that. Are we clear? What happens if you come to me on Tuesday and try to turn something in? Will I take it? I will not, right? You're going to log in and you're going to be like, Mr. Veenstra, oh, I'm such a good student. You just really need to take my work. Oh, no. Your tears will fuel me and give me strength, right? Your tears will just make me stronger as we move into Q3, right? What happens if your mommy comes into my classroom on Wednesday and she's like, oh, Shivani's the greatest student in the world. You should take her work late. Oh. Will I help you? I will not help you. I will be fueled even more. I will take your mother's tears and your tears, and I will bring them both to give me more strength in the next quarter. Okay? Joking aside, I think that I have a very, very reasonable late work policy, right? I let you guys turn in stuff super late. I let you retake stuff all the time, right? Can we agree that that's a pretty fair policy? Yeah. This is why I have to have a hard date at the end, because I need to have time to grade everything. Cool? All right. So that being said, we have a new discussion that's up online. The new discussion is part of this new unit. The new unit is going on Q3. Right? I'm going to put it all on Q3 because I want to keep it as one unit because I want people to be able to redo it and stuff. So the discussion online is the first grade of Q3. Okay. So the grade that's on Skyward now is your grade. It's your grade. It will not go down anymore. It can only go up if you fix it. Okay. Are we good? Give me a thumbs up if you understand everything. Do we have any questions at all? Questions going once, going twice? Sold. Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you guys in a couple days.
Thank you.
Hey, yep.